Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritam Jaiva Narottam Devim Saraswati Vyasam Jai Nashtaprayeshu Bhadreshu Yam Bhagavati Seva Shlok Tirabhavati Ashtati Krishnaya Vasudevaya Devaki Nandanaya Cha Nanda Gopa Kumaraya Namo Namah. So we're reading Canto 2, Chapter 20, The Lord in the Heart. Text 4. Satyam Shitau Kim Kashipo Prayase Bahau Swatite Upavarhane Satyanjalau Kim Purudhanna Patra Igbal Kaladau Satikim Sule. You're able to see my screen, right?
Yes, Mata, we are able to see, Mataji.
Thank you, Prabhu. So, translation and purport is Divine Grace of Prabhupada. When there are ample earthly flats to lie on, what is the necessity of cots and beds? When one can use his own arms, what is the necessity of a pillow? When one can use the palms of his hands, what is the necessity of varieties of utensils? When there is ample covering or the skins of trees, what is the necessity of clothing? Purport. The necessities of life for the protection and comfort of the body must not be unnecessarily increased. Human energy is spoiled in a vain search after such illusory happiness. If one is able to lie down on the floor, why should one endeavor to get a good bedstead or soft cushion to lie on? If one can rest without a pillow and make use of the soft arms endowed by nature, there is no necessity of searching after a pillow. If we make a study of the general life of the animals, we can see that they have no intelligence for building big houses, furniture, and other household paraphernalia. And yet they maintain a healthy life by lying down on the open land. They do not know how to cook or prepare foodstuff, yet they still live healthy lives more easily than the human being. This does not mean that human civilization should revert to animal life, or that the human being should live naked in the jungles without any culture, education, and sense of morality. An intelligent human cannot live the life of an animal. Rather, man should try to utilize his intelligence in arts and science, poetry, and philosophy. In such a way, he can further the progressive march of human civilization. But here, the idea given by Sri Shukadev Goswami is that the reserve energy of human life, which is far superior to that of animals, should simply be utilized for self-realization. Advancement of human civilization must be towards the goal of establishing our lost relationship with God, which is not possible in any form of life other than the human. One must realize the nullity of material phenomena, considering it a passing phantasmagoria, and must endeavor to make a solution to the miseries of life. Self-complacence with a polished type of animal civilization geared towards sense gratification is delusion. And such a civilization, within quotes, is not worthy of the name. In pursuit of such false activities, a human being is in the clutches of Maya or illusion. Great sages and saints in the days of yore were not living in palatial buildings furnished with good furniture, so-called amenities of life. They used to live in huts and groves and sit on the flat ground, and yet they have left immense treasures of high knowledge and all perfection. Srila Rupa Goswami and Srila Sanatana Goswami were high-ranking ministers of state, but they were able to leave behind them immense writings on transcendental knowledge while residing only for one night underneath one tree. They did not even live 2 nights under the same tree. What to speak of well-furnished rooms and modern amenities? And still, they were able to give us most important literatures of self-realization. So-called comforts of life are not actually helpful for progressive civilization. Rather, they are detrimental to such progressive life. In the system of Sanatana Dharma, of 4 divisions of social life and 4 orders of progressive realization, there are ample opportunities and sufficient directions for a happy termination of the progressive life. And the sincere followers are advised therein to accept a voluntary life of renunciation in order to achieve the desired goal of life. If one is not accustomed to abiding by the life of renunciation and self-abnegation from the beginning, one should try to get into the habit at a later stage of life, as recommended by Srila Sukadeva Goswami. And that will help one to achieve the desired success. Om Jnana Timirandhasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurumilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namah Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadanti Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Utapada Kamalam Shri Guru Vaishnavamsya Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathan Tam Saji Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahita Krishna Chaitanya Shri Radha Krishna Pada Sahagana Lalita Shri Shakhantamsya Shri Krishna Karuna Sindhu Bandho Jagatpati Gopesha Gopika Radha Panta Namaste Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sudhi Ami Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Vasintuvevacha Patitanam Papane Vaishnaviko Nam Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityanand Shri Advaita Gadadhar Sivasadi Gaura Bhakta Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare Rama Rama Rama. Welcome to the morning Bhagavatam discussion. I am completely unqualified. However, as instructed, I'm taking this opportunity as a service for my purification. And I ardently seek the blessings of my Guru Maharaj, of the wonderful devotees, so that I may speak something of Sambhav. So this verse is actually a set of about 3 verses, conveying the same message, starting with 2.2.3, which Radha Kunja Prabhu spoke about yesterday. And this verse takes that same message further with examples. So going back to the translation, when there are amply earthly flats to lie on, what is the necessity of cots and beds? When one has his own arms, what is the necessity of a pillow? When one can use the palms of his hands, what is the necessity of varieties of utensils? When there is ample covering or the skins of trees, what is the necessity of clothing? I don't know about you, but when I read this verse for the first time, I was shocked. Is this really the kind of austerity one is expected to undertake to realize the Lord? There were like question marks and exclamation marks lighting up on my head. And I was like, I can never get to this stage. What will I do? But if we view it from the perspective of what is or what should be our real objective, right, as a human being, then this verse starts to make a lot of sense. So what is our real objective? In the Bhagavatam we have read, Savai Pumsham Paro Dharmo Yato Bhaktir Adhokshaje. the supreme occupation of dharma for all humanity is that by which men can attain to loving devotional service unto the transcendent. And such devotional service must be unmotivated and uninterrupted to completely satisfy the self. So that's what it is. We have to think of our parodharma and add to that the purport. Prabhupada has so brilliantly translated, expounded upon this verse, and so compassionately he's written this purport, which really makes the essence very, very clear. So, we understand from the purport that Shukadeva Goswami is speaking from the perspective of a sannyas, one who is in the renounced order of life. However, this message applies to all ashramas, right? Now, and what is that message? That if we crowd our brains and hearts with material possessions and endless desires, then we will handicap ourselves, we will limit ourselves, we will not allow ourselves the opportunity to execute our real dharma, which is to attain the loving devotional service and completely satisfy ourselves. Savai pumsham parodhar, yato bhakti radhakshaja. So Prabhupada is writing in the purport that the necessities of life for the protection and comfort of the body must not be unnecessarily increased. Human energy is spoiled in a vain search after such illusory happiness. Notice Prabhupada is saying necessities of life, right? So whatever is necessary to live in this world is all right? It's fine. But the problem is that we have a tendency to not limit ourselves to the necessities. We go completely overboard. For example, Shukadeva Goswami is talking about the bed. Our tendency is to get the latest firm or maybe super soft pillow top bed set. And then the next model comes by posturepedic or Tempur-Pedic or whatever. And then smart bed where each side of the bed can be, the softness and the hardness can be adjusted for each side of the bed. And so that's how we kind of progress. And then the kind of house that we need, the place to live in. Coming from India to the US, for example, just a one-bedroom apartment seemed sufficient and satisfactory enough. But from that, we grow to a two-bedroom. Then people move to like a 4 or 5 bedroom house, then a smart house. So these days there's this whole thing about smart spaces and smart houses where, the coffee maker turns on automatically voice commands, or the fridge sends alerts when, milk is about to get over, or the TV turns on to your favorite channel depending on the mood or the time of day, or the blinds, go up and down based on the weather and whatnot. So anyway, I saw this funny commercial where one person owns such a house, and he shows off to his neighbor every day. He shows off his fancy gadgets. While the neighbor is jogging on the street, this person is on his treadmill with all sorts of sensors and monitors around him. And his front door also opens when with voice command, right? So when he says open door, then the door opens. And he shows that off to his neighbor again when he comes with his arms full of groceries or whatever. All he has to say is open door, the door opens. It sounds fairly useful, right? But then one day he has a dental surgery. So you can imagine what happens, right? His mouth is anesthetized and he's in pain. He comes home, it's, I think, raining or snowing outside. He's saying open door, but obviously not with his normal tone and voice, and the door does not open. And he tries open door, various ways, and of course the door does not open. And he's in pain and in complete misery. And anyway, the neighbor comes by and helps, comes to his rescue, takes him home, gives him hot chocolate and whatever not. So simplicity wins. But so jokes apart, imagine how much time and energy scientists, engineers, designers spend on making these products for our sense gratification. And every year, a new feature gets added, and another, and there are people who are constantly researching these consumers, trying to get something that's better than their neighbor. If you think about it, the collective mind share of the society is completely captivated on the bodily platform. And in all this maze of craziness, where is the time for spirituality? It's like, hello, anybody home? Anybody, in this body, remember what is the goal of life? What is the paradharma? So we have to think several times before acquiring yet another thing for our home, our wardrobe, our gadgets, our cars. Do we really think that it is necessary? So Prabhupada in the purport says, one must realize the nullity of the material phenomena, considering it a passing phantasmagoria, and must endeavor to bring a solution to the miseries of life. So the point is not really that we should sleep on the ground and eat without utensils, but we have to simplify ourselves, our lives. And simplicity is the quality of a Brahman. In Bhagavad Gita, Krishna himself talks about the quality of Brahmanas, the class of Brahmanas, who's the brain, the highest in the society, the spiritual master of all other classes in society. And that in order to go back to Godhead, we must focus on the process of Krishna consciousness, which is our parodharma, under the guidance of a spiritual master. And we have to renounce the idea that material things meant for sense gratification can give us happiness, because while one acquires material products for sukha, it is actually the source of dukkha. In Bhagavad Gita, Krishna tells Arjuna that lust, anger, and greed are the three gateways to hell. So we lust for something. If we don't get it, we get angry. If we do get it, we want more, and we get completely entangled in a world. Then there is no way to, surface and take a fresh breath of what is our real karma. So in the context of our eternal life, if you see our, eternal life, our original Swarup, these 50, 80, maybe 100 years of life as a human being, it's so short, so temporary, like a flash in the pan. Yet it is our small opportunity to get out of this material. And trying so hard to get happiness through material products is, like Prabhupada says, a phantasmagoria, illusory happiness. So it's like, when we go in a train, right? We start at a certain station, reach our destination, and we are supposed to get off. That's what our life is. But if we get attached to that train compartment and start adding beautiful curtains to the windows, or flower vases, colorful cushions, furniture, that's not wise. And when we come to the end, like, we don't want to get off. We are trying to make a permanent arrangement in a very temporary situation, right? It's completely futile to invest our energy in that way. My Maharaj is the example of making a large fancy sandcastle, a beach. The high tide will rise, it'll come and wash it away. All the effort and energy will be wasted. So instead, advancement of human civilization must be towards the goal of establishing our lost relationship with God. It is not possible in any form of life other than the human. Prabhupada is saying in the purport. So that kind of tells us how precious our human life is. Radha Kunja Bihari Prabhu yesterday was saying the same, that out of 8,400,000 species, we've cycled through these species and have obtained this human life. Can we really afford to waste it away by living the life of a polished animal, which Prabhupada is talking about, completely in the clutches of Maya, consumed by eating, sleeping, mating, defending? And those are things which, as Prabhupada is saying, animals do much better and much more naturally than us anyway, but they can't achieve self-realization. Only humans can. So, so instead of so instead of doing all that, we really should be finding solutions to the real miseries, right? Birth, death, disease, old age. And how do we do that? By reviving our lost relationship with God. So, having said that, Prabhupada talks about Srila Rupa Goswami and Srila Sanatana Goswami, who were high-ranking ministers of state, but they were able to leave behind them immense writings on transcendental knowledge while residing only for one night underneath one tree. They did not even live 2 nights under the same tree. That's how unattached they were. What to speak of well-furnished rooms and modern amenities. And we actually learned about the renunciation of the 6 Goswamis in the virtual Vrindavan Yatra seminar that was held recently. And it's so heart-touching. It's like, Srila Rupa Goswami, Sanatana Goswami were materially so accomplished, very rich as ministers in the kingdom of the Nawab. And they gave up everything. Why? For the higher principle. Raghunath Das Goswami was from a wealthy Zamindar family. And he survived on leftover prasad that came down drain pipes in the temples of Puri. Now, they lived so simply, but if you look at the temples in Vrindavan, they built huge temples for their devotees. When they were, for themselves, they were completely unattached and simple. But their work is so monumental. And the wonderful books, the wonderful realizations which are helping us make progress. Nectar of Devotion, Bhagavatamrita, Manashiksha, and so on. Such beautiful realizations and instructions they have left for us. Now, one thing to note is Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, of course, he does not advocate complete renunciation like this for us in the age of Kali, unless we are, of course, qualified like the Goswamis. In fact, Mahaprabhu, the most magnificent Lord, his instruction is Thane Sthita. So he says that wherever you are, whatever situation you are in, practice Bhakti Yoga. And he's given us the Maha Mantra to do that. Narottam Das Thakur also says, he says, Griheba bonete thako, ha gauranga bole dako. So whether you're a grihastha, looking after a family, bringing up children, or you are renounced in the forest, just call out to Gauranga. It's like same impact. And of course, Krishna himself in the Bhagavad Gita, he gives his most confidential knowledge in chapter 16.8, in verse 65. He says, he gives a very simple way, right? Just do 4 things. Here it is. Manmana bhavamad bhakto matyaji mam namashkuru. Mam evaisyasi satyam te pratijane priyosime. So Krishna says, always think of me, become my devotee, worship me and offer homage unto me. Thus you will come to me without fail. I promise you this because you are my very dear friend. So if I, reading the purport a little bit, again, he's talking about just these 4 things, but Prabhupada has again elaborated it for us a little. The most confidential part of knowledge is that one should become a pure devotee of Krishna, always think of him and act for him. One should not become an official meditator. So there's really no need to be a big yogi or undertake severe austerities. Life should be so molded that one will always have the chance to think of Krishna. And how? by decluttering our lives, our minds and hearts, right? Remove all the clutter and live a simple life where we have ample opportunity to think of serve Krishna. One should always act in such a way that all his daily lives, the daily activities, are in connection with Krishna. He should arrange his life in such a way that throughout the 24 hours, he cannot but think of Krishna. And the Lord's promise is that anyone who is in such pure consciousness will certainly return to the abode of Krishna, where he will be engaged in the association of Krishna face to face. This most confidential part of knowledge is spoken to Arjuna because he is the dear friend of Krishna. So everyone who follows the path of Krishna can become a dear can become a dear friend to Krishna and obtain the same perfection as Arjuna. So, just Krishna has made it so simple for us. And there are many such verses that, that where Krishna has kind of simplified it for us. Janma karma chame divyam, for example, evam yovik yakta deham punarjanma naitimam. So Arjuna. So one who knows the transcendental nature of my appearance and activities does not, upon leaving the body, take birth again in this material world, but will attain my eternal abode. So that's, again, that's his assurance. Know about him, know about his nature, his life, his pastimes, his activities. That's what we need to go back to him. So it's the assurance that Krishna is giving. So practice where we are under the guidance of our spiritual master with sincerity. Remove all this material clutter and dedicate and dovetail everything that we do into Krishna consciousness, which again Prabhupada has so compassionately spread around the world, and made it available to us. And very importantly, remember what our position is, which is what? Nitya Krishna Das. Jiver Swarup Hai, Nitya Krishna Das. So I will end with that. Thank you very much. Sorry if I've spoken anything. We don't have much depth in philosophy, but I'm grateful to have had this opportunity to glorify and meditate upon verse from Srimad Bhagavatam. So I invite you to please correct, add.
Hare Krishna Mataji, please accept my humble obeisances or glories to Guru and Gauranga.
Hare Krishna Prabhu, please accept mine. All praise to Sri Prabhupada.
Mataji, wonderful morning discourse, particularly, when you were talking about the smart home, how, we progress on the quality of the bed, or, like the voice of the security, this thing, and not in the right direction. It was so wonderful, Mataji. The message overall was well packed, and, that's the morning, what do you say, the medicine dose that we take, so it keeps us running for the entire day. Thank you so much, Mataji. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhu. Thank you so much.
Yes, Mataji. Thank you so much for a nice class. So, simple living, I think you elaborated on the lesson purport. How we try to make ourselves, thinking that I need this. If when we actually see it, maybe after some time we really don't use it, right? But we accumulate things as in, right? Our tendency to do those things. So, but then, yeah, that will make us complicate to maintain manage those things again. Mm-hmm. Right? In the first place, we don't need them. I think the examples, analysis you gave, it is very nice. Thank you.
Thank you. So we'll end here then. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Srila Prabhupada jai. Nitai Gaur Premanand. Panchakata Rupyasya Kripa Sindhu. patitanam pavan